across the planet, in places where wind scours stone and legends refuse to die, stand works of ancient genius that still unsettle our sense of time. Japan's Ishi-no-Hoden, the floating stone, and the carved bulk of Masuda-no-Iwafune stare out from green hillsides. The concentric rings of Rujm el-Hiri ripple across the Golan Plateau like frozen waves. Saudi Arabia's Naslaa splits down the middle with a line so straight, it looks drawn by light. In Egypt, the Osirion at Abydos broods below ground, a chamber of monolithic pillars and water, while in Europe, Spain's Dolmen de Soto and Ireland's Newgrange align their dark passages to the sun with unnerving precision. And in Lebanon, Baalbek's foundations sit on stones so vast that even modern machines would struggle to lift them. Settle in, mute the noise outside, and let the timeline go blurry for a while. Together, we'll ask whether these walls, circles, tombs, and platforms are just ruins, or messages across millennia from builders who faced a world-changing event and left their warnings in stone. Hidden in Japan's calm, forested hills are two ancient monuments whose beginnings are as mysterious as their look. Known as Ishi-no-Hoden and Masuda-no-Iwafune, these puzzling sites rank among Japan's most intriguing megaliths. Unlike Stonehenge or the Egyptian pyramids, these remarkable Japanese stones almost never show up in documentaries or standard history texts. Even so, their very existence pushes back on what we assume early civilizations could do. Let's start with the mesmerizing Ishi-no-Hoden, often nicknamed Hyogo Prefecture's floating stone. One look at this massive granite block and it grabs your attention. It practically looks like it's defying gravity. Set over a shallow pool, the stone appears to hover lightly above its base. It's about 6.4 meters long, 5.7 meters wide, and 5.45 meters high, with an estimated mass near 500 tons. For scale, that's roughly the weight of 3 jumbo jets. And yet it seems delicately poised, resting on a small central support cleverly hidden by the surrounding water. Look closer, and the precision and craftsmanship become even harder to wrap your head around. Ishi-no-Hoden's faces are strikingly smooth, with crisp, clean angles. Work modern stonemasons say would demand advanced tools and meticulous planning even today. Archaeologists and historians still can't say for sure how people with early tools carved and balanced something this huge. To make it tougher, there are no clear records or artifacts showing who built it or why. Local lore only thickens the mystery around Ishi-no-Hoden. Stories handed down for generations claim ordinary people didn't make it. They hint at gods or advanced beings coming from the sky and shaping the stone with powers beyond human means. As fanciful as that sounds, the myths invite a question. Could there be a kernel of history here, some memory of contact with a highly capable culture that later vanished from the record? Not far away sits another enigma, Masuda-no-Iwafune, the rock ship, and it's just as compelling and mysterious. In Osaka, Nara Prefecture, a huge granite block has been carved into a distinctive, hard-to-classify shape. It's roughly 11 meters long, 8 meters wide, and almost 5 meters tall, an imposing presence in the quiet countryside. What Masuda-no-Iwafune was actually for remains a long-standing puzzle. Unlike many ancient sites tied to tombs, temples, or skywatching, this ship doesn't offer an obvious explanation. Its surface carries symmetrical grooves and neat, rectangular cutouts. Some researchers think those features were practical, maybe foundations or anchor points for a larger structure that no longer survives. Others lean toward a ceremonial role or symbolic markers. But none of these ideas has firm archaeological proof, so Masuda-no-Iwafune's purpose stays clouded by time. Adding to the confusion, there are no piles of chips or carving debris, the kind you'd expect from work on this scale. That absence has led some to suggest the block was carved elsewhere and then brought here. Of course, moving something this heavy with the tools of the time raises a whole new set of questions. Interestingly, the region around Masuda-no-Iwafune and Ishi-no-Hoden is rich in folklore about advanced beings and long-lost civilizations. In many Japanese tales, these early societies wield skills and knowledge that feel far beyond what we'd expect. Some stories tell of great teachers arriving from across the sea or descending from the heavens, sharing knowledge of building, astronomy, farming, and medicine. then disappearing in a catastrophe often described as a massive flood or tsunami. Japan, in fact, has plenty of flood legends that echo stories told around the world. A standout example appears in the Kojiki, compiled around 712 CE, which describes a chaotic era when the gods unleashed floods and storms to cleanse and remake the land. Those accounts line up with flood myths elsewhere, hinting at a shared memory of disaster on a global scale. Viewed through that lens, these Japanese megaliths suggest some intriguing possibilities. Do the evident construction skills point to a sophisticated culture that was disrupted or wiped out by a major flood? If that's the case, it would dovetail with global flood traditions and suggest ancient Japan hosted a culture whose know-how vanished abruptly. The mystery deepens when you notice similar stonework worldwide, signs of techniques that seem to have been forgotten. Both Ishi-no-Hoden and Masuda-no-Iwafune echo other puzzling ancient sites found around the globe. These are places that resist easy explanation, showing the same precise cutting and careful placement. From South America's massive polygonal walls to the split stones in Arabian deserts, the shared techniques and styles hint at a broad ancient understanding of megalithic building. Hidden in the quiet, windswept expanses of the Golan Heights lies a little-known but mysterious site that most people have never even heard about. Still, anyone who encounters it in person tends to find the place undeniably captivating and hard to forget. Locals know it as Rujm el-Hiri, often translated from Arabic as Stone Heap of the Wild Cat, a name that sticks in the mind. This intriguing ancient complex is made up of several enormous, concentric rings of stone that have quietly dominated the barren landscape for thousands upon thousands of years. Constructed roughly 5 millennia ago, during the early Bronze Age, Rujm el-Hiri actually predates many of the world's more famous ancient monuments and landmarks. Seen from ground level, its real complexity is surprisingly hard to take in or fully appreciate at first glance. To the eye, it can look like nothing more than scattered piles of basalt rocks spread across an open, empty field. But when you view the monument from above, the entire picture shifts dramatically and becomes something else entirely. From the air, a remarkably precise plan emerges. Circular stone walls arranged neatly one inside the next, like ripples radiating outward from a raised central stone mound, carefully engineered and deliberate. The outermost circle stretches to an impressive diameter of about 160 meters, which is enormous by any reasonable measure. And taken together, the entire complex is estimated to contain more than 42,000 tons of carefully positioned volcanic stone. Most archaeologists agree the site must have held major significance for its builders. However, the specific reason it was constructed remains uncertain and unresolved. What's especially intriguing about Rujm el-Hiri is its unmistakable alignment with key astronomical events in the sky. On the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, the first rays of the rising sun shine straight through the entrance and light up the central mound inside, creating a dramatic dawn display that marks the day with intention. That kind of precise solar alignment strongly suggests the ancient builders had serious astronomical knowledge and intentionally designed the structure to track seasonal cycles over time. Adding to the fascination are discoveries made during excavations carried out within the central mound itself. Archaeologists uncovered a burial chamber deep inside, and it dates to a phase slightly later than the construction of the surrounding circles. This, in turn, implies the site may have served multiple ceremonial or ritual functions for centuries, perhaps tied to honoring ancestors, marking seasonal transitions, or celebrating celestial events in the heavens. Even so, no single, definitive explanation settles the question of its original purpose, leaving archaeologists and historians with more open questions than tidy answers. Local folklore layers on even more mystery around Rujm el-Hiri and its enigmatic rings. Among nearby communities, especially among the Druze people who live in the region, legends vividly describe giants who once roamed this rugged landscape. In those traditions, these enormous beings were said to raise monumental structures overnight, carrying huge stones in their bare hands as if they were weightless. Such stories might sound exaggerated to modern ears today, and understandably so. Yet intriguingly, They echo similar myths around the world, from claims that giants built Stonehenge in England to tales of megalith builders in ancient Armenia and in many other regions across Eurasia and the Mediterranean. Other local traditions speak of an advanced ancient society that flourished here, skilled in astronomy and architecture, whose civilization suddenly vanished and left few clear traces behind, as if erased by time. These narratives offer tantalizing glimpses into how people in antiquity tried to interpret mysterious works left behind by earlier, now forgotten societies. What we can say for certain is that the builders of Rujm el-Hiri were organized, knowledgeable, and capable of coordinating large groups to deliver bold, ambitious projects. They appear to have planned the placement of each stone with meticulous care, aligning the overall structure precisely to meaningful celestial events and seasonal markers throughout the year. Even today, when you stand within the concentric circles beneath that vast, open sky, it is hard not to feel that the place holds something special and resonant. It feels like an ancient thread connecting humanity directly to the rhythms of nature and to the wider cosmos that surrounds us. Although Rujm el-Hiri remains largely overlooked in popular archaeology and media coverage, its enduring presence on the Golan Heights keeps inspiring curiosity and a sense of wonder. Whether it was created by ancient astronomers, forgotten cultures, or the legendary giants of regional lore, this remarkable stone complex quietly invites every visitor to reflect on and appreciate the enduring mysteries of our shared human past. Leaving behind the mysterious stone circles of the Golan Heights, our path now carries us deep into Saudi Arabia's sun-baked deserts, a realm of heat, distance, and shimmering horizons. Here, amid the drifting sands and the relentless blaze of the sun, stands one of the world's most peculiar geological sites, the Naslaa rock formation. At first glance, Naslaa looks almost surreal, more like something dreamed up by a master sculptor than a shape patiently carved by wind, time, and natural forces. Two enormous sandstone blocks sit shoulder to shoulder, divided by a startlingly precise vertical split, so clean, so exact, that many say it resembles the work of a modern laser far more than a random act of nature. Each half perches delicately on a small, naturally formed pedestal, lending the stones an elegant, almost gravity-defying presence that feels improbably poised. What seizes your attention right away, however, is the astonishing precision of that cut running between the two stones, as exact as a line drawn with a blade. The fracture extends several meters from top to bottom and remains perfectly straight, so sharply defined that many observers can't help questioning whether nature alone could have produced it. Even seasoned geologists, people who've studied endless examples of weathering and erosion, find themselves marveling at Naslaa's striking, almost unnerving perfection. Scientific explanations do exist, proposing that natural processes, seismic activity, persistent wind erosion, or slow pressure changes within the rock layers could account for the unusual, razor-like split. Even so, none of these theories fully satisfies every expert, and a measure of doubt stubbornly remains. The division's smoothness and symmetry feel almost too precise to attribute entirely to nature, which leaves the door open, at least a crack, for more intriguing possibilities. Adding yet another layer of mystery, remarkable petroglyphs are etched into Naslaa's sandstone faces, weathered but unmistakable. Thought to be thousands of years old, these carvings show animals, human figures, and abstract motifs, offering a tantalizing glimpse into the lives and beliefs of the region's earliest inhabitants. The lingering question is whether these carvings have any real connection to that enigmatic split, or whether the pairing is simply a compelling coincidence. Is it possible that the artists who pecked these petroglyphs either created the split itself, or at the very least drew inspiration from the remarkable geological anomaly rising beside their canvas? Because the cut appears so extraordinarily precise, some researchers have speculated that ancient people, perhaps equipped with advanced know-how or specialized tools, may have deliberately created it. Naturally, that idea raises a host of follow-up questions, especially about what sort of technology those people could realistically have had at their disposal. Conventional history tells us that the societies inhabiting this desert thousands of years ago had only basic implements: stone and bronze chisels, hand hammers, and simple levers for lifting or prying. And yet, even with today's modern equipment, producing a cut of this size and achieving a line so perfectly precise would be demanding, time-consuming, and extremely labor-intensive. Which leads to the provocative question: could an ancient culture have possessed methods that go far beyond what conventional history currently acknowledges or teaches? There are, unfortunately, no direct historical records that clearly answer this question or settle the matter once and for all. Even so, local Arabian folklore offers a handful of intriguing clues and suggestive hints. Regional legends describe ancient tribes with a kind of mastery over stone, shaping rock as if it were soft clay, using tools that sound strange, unfamiliar, and largely unknown to us. Many of these stories weave in outright mythic elements, speaking of beings, or gifted people, with unusual powers who could change the very consistency of stone, turning it soft, pliable, and easy to mold. At Naslaa today, scientists continue to debate, test, and investigate the formation's origins with fresh studies and on-site observations. Some geologists theorize that ancient seismic activity created internal stress fractures, which, over time, propagated and ultimately split the rock in the neat, ruler-straight way we now see. Others point toward ancient volcanic effects, suggesting that heated groundwater may have weakened specific mineral layers within the sandstone, setting the stage for the precise fracture visible today. Yet neither scenario fully convinces the skeptics, leaving ample room for alternative interpretations and for lively debate to continue. It's genuinely fascinating to imagine what people thousands of years ago might have thought when they first encountered this peculiar, almost theatrical rock formation. Did they interpret it as a sign of divine action or some kind of supernatural intervention breaking into the everyday world? And was this very spot chosen for the petroglyphs because its appearance felt special or sacred, prompting artists to mark it with meaning? Ancient cultures frequently revered unusual natural landmarks, layering them with spiritual significance and symbolic meaning, and Naslaa certainly qualifies as one of those extraordinary places. Local Bedouin traditions add even more color and flavor to the mystery that already surrounds this place. Stories shared among tribal groups recall an era when powerful beings, or supremely skilled craftsmen, inhabited the land and left subtle traces of their presence. Marks, monuments, and signposts meant to guide or symbolically remind those who followed. Could Naslaa's precisely split stones be one of those deliberately placed monuments, left intentionally for future generations to find and ponder? If so, its meaning and message may be lost to history now, preserved only as an echo that invites speculation. Whatever its true origin, purely natural, cleverly man-made, or something intriguingly in between, the Naslaa formation continues to captivate and perplex visitors right up to the present day. Tourists, historians, and working scientists all make the hard trip into the desert to witness this baffling geological curiosity with their own eyes. Its distinctive, almost artistic look, paired with the many unanswered questions about how it formed, ensures it remains a favorite subject for speculation, wonder, and debate. Perhaps someday, new discoveries or more advanced scientific analyses will finally clarify exactly how this enigmatic formation came to be, removing the haze that still surrounds it. Until that day arrives, Naslaa stands silent under the desert sun, a stone riddle, inviting every passerby to ponder its mysteries, consider its origins, and imagine the untold stories etched deep within its perfectly divided face. We're heading to Egypt now, famed for its ancient marvels, yet it also shelters lesser-known sites that are every bit as captivating. Quietly tucked behind the temple of Seti I at Abydos lies a subterranean structure called the Osirion, an enigmatic complex many believe may predate even Egypt's earliest dynasties. At first glance, the Osirion doesn't resemble typical Egyptian architecture at all. Partly hidden below ground, the complex feels more like something you'd expect to find in a lost civilization than behind a well-documented temple. Descending into the Osirion is like stepping into another era, perhaps even older than the pyramids or the Great Sphinx. The Osirion consists of massive granite pillars set with precision around a central island, forming a symmetrical chamber that sits partly in groundwater. Each of these colossal pillars weighs around 100 tons, shaped and positioned with astonishing accuracy. Unlike most Egyptian temples, rich with hieroglyphs and ornate carvings, the surfaces here are smooth, simple, and strikingly austere. The stonework shows incredible craftsmanship, razor-straight edges, crisp angles, and tight, mortarless joints, akin to megalithic walls in distant Peru or around the Mediterranean. In other words, this architectural style stands apart from standard ancient Egyptian methods. Typically, nearby temples like Seti's are filled with inscriptions, vivid murals, and elaborate reliefs. The Osirion, however, lacks that decorative grandeur entirely. Instead, it projects a minimalist sophistication, almost modern in its restraint. This stark stylistic contrast has led researchers to ask whether the Osirion might not be Egyptian in origin at all, but rather an inheritance from an even older culture. Historical records and archaeology still struggle to pin down a definitive date for the Osirion. Traditional Egyptology credits Pharaoh Seti I, roughly 1290 to 1279 BCE, but that attribution is debated. The evidence remains murky, and many argue the structure is far older, perhaps by millennia, citing its unique design, construction approach, and heavy water erosion marks. Those erosion patterns, often highlighted by alternative historians, resemble weathering on the body of the Great Sphinx, hinting at flooding or long periods of rainfall. Such conditions would predate Egypt's recognized dynastic periods by a considerable margin. That observation opens intriguing possibilities about the region's climate and environment thousands of years before mainstream timelines place large-scale Egyptian civilization. Egyptian mythology adds another fascinating layer to the Osirion's mystery. Tradition holds the site honors Osiris, the god of the afterlife and renewal. Ancient Egyptians believed Osiris brought civilization, wisdom, and culture. Local lore suggests the Osirion was built to symbolize his tomb, tying it to a remembered golden age when gods and demigods walked among humans. Egyptians themselves often maintained that many sacred places, especially those linked to Osiris, were not originally their own creations. Instead, they said they inherited temples and holy structures from a much older, highly advanced culture connected directly to divine beings. These legends speak of the Shamsahor, the followers of Horus, semi-divine rulers said to have governed Egypt long before recorded history began. In ancient texts, the Shamsahor are credited with establishing refined cultural traditions, monumental building, and complex spiritual systems. Could the Osirion be one of those legendary inheritances? Its architecture certainly matches descriptions of those earlier, divine constructions. Enormous scale, exacting craftsmanship, and distinctive methods unlike anything else in the accepted dynastic repertoire. All of this raises big questions about Egypt's historical timeline and the true origins of its earliest monuments. Adding to the intrigue, researchers note the Osirion shares traits and advanced building techniques with other enigmatic sites worldwide, such as Peru's Sacsayhuaman or Turkey's Göbekli Tepe. Such parallels hint at shared knowledge or methods in a very remote past, perhaps even predating the accepted histories of these separate cultures. Yet despite modern study and intense archaeological interest, the Osirion remains an unsolved puzzle. Water constantly seeps into its chambers, limiting excavation and detailed research, and preserving its secrets beneath a shallow, ancient pool. Visitors today still marvel at its stark elegance and monumental presence. It captures the imagination while refusing to give up its true origins. Around Abydos, guides and local historians speak of the Osirion with reverence and curiosity, retelling stories of lost civilizations and divine beings walking beside humankind. Even in modern Egypt, these legends still resonate, not merely as fanciful myths, but as echoes of a distant reality kept alive through storytelling. Although the question of who built the Osirion remains open, its very presence challenges how we understand Egypt's deep past. As archaeologists keep exploring, perhaps future finds in the sands and waters around Abydos will finally reveal decisive clues to its true age and origin. Leaving Egypt's sun-baked landscapes behind, we head northwest across the Mediterranean to the Iberian Peninsula and a quiet corner of southern Spain. Tucked among peaceful fields and rolling hills near the town of Trigueros stands a remarkable ancient structure known as Dolmen de Soto. This modest yet striking monument adds another piece to the worldwide puzzle of megalithic builders whose creations still fascinate visitors and archaeologists. Built roughly 5,000 years ago, Dolmen de Soto ranks among Spain's largest and most important megalithic tombs. From the outside, the site looks deceptively simple at first glance. It appears as a broad earthen mound that conceals a long, stone-lined passage. Step inside, however, and an entire world of wonder opens before you. Extending nearly 21 meters, the corridor carries visitors deep into a mysterious chamber formed by massive upright stones. Each slab was deliberately selected and carefully set, some weigh several tons, immediately signaling that this was no ordinary build. The dolmen's truest marvel reveals itself in the carvings that adorn its inner stone walls. Moving slowly through the dim passage, visitors meet intricate patterns, spirals, abstractions, and stylized figures, etched directly into the rock. These symbols feel surprisingly consistent and intentional, even if their exact meanings remain elusive. Are the carvings purely decorative, references to celestial events, or perhaps ancient maps that mark nearby sacred places? Scholars keep studying them, intrigued by the design's subtlety and complexity. One especially notable feature of Dolmen de Soto is its deliberate astronomical alignment. Researchers examining the tomb observed that its entrance faces precisely toward the east. During each equinox, those 2 days when daylight matches night, the rising sun's rays reach deep along the passage and light up the inner chamber and carvings. This dramatic effect strongly suggests the builders possessed real astronomical knowledge, aligning the monument to specific points in the solar calendar. The sophistication needed to achieve such precise alignments 5,000 years ago is difficult to overstate. It points to careful planning, keen observation, and a culture that placed deep importance on the sun's cycles. Although the ultimate purpose of the alignment remains uncertain, many experts think it served ritual or ceremonial roles, marking seasons, agriculture, or bonding the living with ancestors. Leaving warm southern Spain behind, we travel north across lush green lands and over the sea to Ireland's emerald countryside. There, nestled in the serene Boyne Valley, stands another ancient marvel, the Newgrange tomb. Built around 3,200 BCE, older than Stonehenge and even the Great Pyramid, Newgrange offers another vivid glimpse of ancient builders' sophistication. At first glance, Newgrange looks like a large circular mound covered in grass. But when you draw closer, the structure begins to reveal its true complexity. Encircled by great standing stones, Newgrange features a striking white quartz facade, restored to suggest its original look, and big rounded granite boulders around the perimeter. The tomb spans more than 80 meters across and rises to about 13 meters high, dominating the Irish landscape. Yet the most captivating part of Newgrange waits on the inside. Visitors pass through a narrow, stone-lined corridor, traveling nearly 19 meters into the monument's heart. At the end of the passage sits a cruciform chamber with 3 alcoves, believed to have held ancestral remains or ceremonial objects. What seizes attention next is the stunning carved artwork blanketing the interior stones. Spirals, circles, zigzags, and abstract geometric patterns cover almost every surface, deeply carved into massive slabs. These motifs echo designs seen at distant sites like Dolmen de Soto, hinting at cultural links that stretch across thousands of kilometers and many centuries. Like the Spanish dolmen, one of Newgrange's most breathtaking elements is its extremely precise astronomical alignment. Every winter solstice, the year's shortest day and longest night, something truly extraordinary happens. At sunrise, a narrow shaft of light enters through a special opening above the doorway, known as the roof box, set with intent by the ancient builders. The beam creeps along the passage, reaches the inner chamber, and floods it with light for a brief but spectacular moment. For the rest of the year, the chamber stays in darkness, untouched by any direct sun. Such precision is no accident whatsoever. It demanded refined observation, careful calculation, and advanced engineering to position the roof box and chamber exactly right. The solstice event likely held deep meaning for the builders of Newgrange, a symbol of rebirth, renewal, and the returning light after winter's long night. Irish folklore passed down through generations adds yet another layer of intrigue to the monument. Local tradition says Newgrange was raised by the Tuatha Dé Danann, a mystical people said to wield extraordinary powers. According to legend, the Tuatha Dé Danann excelled in magic, craftsmanship, and astronomy, creating great works with seeming ease. While mythical, these tales reflect genuine awe at the site's sophistication and help explain its enduring mystery. Unlike some ancient structures where purpose is disputed, most archaeologists agree Newgrange served as a tomb or ceremonial space that linked the living with ancestors during cosmic events. Even today, thousands apply for the rare chance to witness the winter solstice illumination and experience the moment as the ancient builders intended. Together, Dolmen de Soto in Spain and Newgrange in Ireland showcase remarkable sophistication and meticulous planning by ancient societies. Though separated by geography and culture, their builders shared practices in precise sky alignments, intricate carving, and monumental stone construction. We may never fully grasp every motivation behind these monuments, but their existence speaks volumes about the ingenuity and creativity of the people who made them. These two remarkable sites, standing proudly in their landscapes, continue to inspire awe and curiosity today. Whether lit by the equinox sunrise in Spain or the winter solstice glow in Ireland, each one reminds us of humanity's deep, timeless fascination with the heavens. And each affirms our persistent urge to build lasting monuments that bridge generations and carry meaning forward in time. From the softly rolling hills around Ireland's Newgrange, we now head southeast across Europe into Lebanon's rugged landscapes, home to a site that has fascinated travelers for thousands of years, Baalbek. Nestled in the fertile Bekaa Valley, Baalbek preserves some of the most astonishing megalithic stones ever carved and positioned by human hands. And yet, despite centuries of study and debate, the precise way ancient builders achieved this feat remains stubbornly unclear. Approaching the Baalbek complex, you immediately feel small, almost dwarfed by its overwhelming scale and monumentality. The visible ruins are primarily Roman temples built about 2,000 years ago, among them the Temple of Jupiter, the Temple of Bacchus, and the Temple of Venus, each impressive in its own right. But beneath these Roman masterpieces lies a foundation of truly massive stone blocks, so enormous and so precisely placed that they overshadow even Rome's engineering triumphs. That foundation section is known today as the Trilithon, three incredibly large limestone blocks, each weighing on the order of 800 tons. To picture that kind of mass, think of each single block as roughly equivalent to two fully loaded jumbo jets at takeoff. Even more astonishing, these blocks weren't just heaved roughly into place. They were cut, shaped, transported, and seated with meticulous accuracy. The joints where these colossal stones meet are so snug and exact that no mortar or adhesive was needed at all. Even after thousands of years of weather and earthquakes, you still can't slide a sheet of paper into some of those hairline seams. As impressive as the Trilithon is, Baalbek also boasts the legendary stone of the pregnant woman, still resting in a nearby quarry. This single stone is estimated at around 1,000 tons, making it one of the largest monoliths ever crafted by human hands. Simply imagining how such a massive block could be moved, let alone lifted and positioned into a structure, can leave modern engineers scratching their heads. Even with today's most powerful cranes and transporters, maneuvering stones at this scale would be extraordinarily difficult and risky. Which naturally raises the question, how did ancient builders, supposedly armed with only basic tools and simple machines, accomplish a task so monumental? The stones at Baalbek weren't dragged a few meters. The quarry that supplied them sits nearly a kilometer away. That means the builders had to lift, convey, and control these blocks across uneven, sometimes uphill terrain before setting them perfectly. Over the decades, historians and archaeologists have put forward a range of theories to explain the process. Some propose complex systems of wooden rollers, ropes, earthen ramps, and sheer manpower, thousands of laborers inching the stones into place. Others argue that such methods become physically impractical once you factor in the stone's immense mass, friction, and the terrain's challenges. Experimental reconstructions with replica tools often struggle to reproduce even a small fraction of the required movement and precision. Local Lebanese folklore, however, tells a very different, and admittedly more colorful, story about how it was done. Generations of tales speak of giants who once roamed this valley, beings with immense strength and unusual powers. In the legends, these giants hoisted enormous stones as easily as a child stacks blocks, setting foundations and temple walls with effortless grace. While stories of giants can sound fantastical to modern ears, many ancient peoples treated them as sincere history. In fact, cultures around the world preserve traditions of giants or great beings responsible for building monumental sites. In Lebanon, local lore describes these figures as semi-divine ancestors or heroic forebears who shaped the land and left proof of their strength in places like Baalbek. Beyond folklore, early historical writers add their own astonishment to the record. Ancient Greek and Roman authors who visited this region wrote about Baalbek's colossal stones with open wonder. Writing in the 1st century AD, the Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder marveled at the temple foundations, attributing them to unknown ancient peoples, or even to mythical figures from the distant past. It's worth remembering that Roman architects were superb engineers, yet their typical methods used smaller stones and bricks, bonded with mortar and concrete. By contrast, Baalbek's largest megaliths clearly predate Roman construction. When the Romans arrived, they built atop these already existing foundations. Even so, the Romans left no definitive record explaining who first created the immense megalithic platform beneath their temples. The prevailing archaeological view attributes Baalbek's trilithon to an earlier Phoenician or Canaanite culture, perhaps 3,000 to 4,000 years old. Yet those societies, according to our surviving records, also relied on relatively simple toolkits and lacked advanced heavy lifting equipment. That mismatch leaves a stubborn gap in our understanding of how such titanic stones were actually quarried, moved, and set. If neither the Romans nor the earlier documented cultures possessed the necessary technology, then who exactly did? Visiting Baalbek today is still a humbling experience. Tourists and scholars wander among these vast stones, marveling at their scale, their finish, and the mystery of their creation. Archaeologists and engineers continue to test ideas and gather data, hoping new finds or new methods will clarify how ancient builders pulled this off. Meanwhile, the local community remains deeply proud of this extraordinary heritage site and its enduring legends. Lebanese guides often share the old stories of giants with a blend of humor and respect, honoring mystery while keeping ancestral traditions alive. The intrigue deepens when you examine the stones up close, not just their placement, but the quality of their cutting. Many surfaces look so even and true that they seem almost machine-finished rather than roughly hand-tooled. Some researchers have speculated that ancient builders used techniques now lost, specialized chisels, unusually hard cutting points, or clever leveraging systems. Yet excavations around Baalbek haven't produced definitive tool sets or devices that fully explain the stone's flawless shaping. One thing remains beyond debate. Whoever organized Baalbek's foundations possessed profound stoneworking knowledge and formidable logistical skill. Planning, shaping, moving, and precisely seating each block would have required coordinated teams, rigorous scheduling, and expert understanding of physics. And perhaps, if we entertain local legend for a moment, even strength or methods that feel unusual by ordinary human standards. The vast scale, precision engineering, and persistent enigma of Baalbek stones continue to capture imaginations around the world. They stand as a lasting testament to ambition and skill, human, or some would say, almost superhuman, in both vision and execution. Whether the product of ancient engineering genius or the handiwork of mythical giants, Baalbek's megalithic platform remains one of the world's great enigmas. And it still silently challenges every visitor to uncover its old secrets and decide for themselves how it all was done.